You were, as far as I can remember, my first sports hero.
Appreciate it.
There were some other people. I was from Sacramento. The Sacramento Kings were starting to get good when I was younger. Yeah. But you, myself and my dad, used to watch all your fights in the UFC. I think this was back when it was on Spike TV, and they would just rerun the pay-per-views. The first fight I saw of you live was your first fight with Forrest Griffin. And I was so fucking pumped, man. And I loved you so much. And I thought you were so goddamn cool that it's such an honor to have you.
I appreciate it. This is actually the second time we've already met. So
yeah.
But that Forrest one, that was very tough. I was up in Big Bear. Of course, all my training camps are always up in Big Bear because of De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas. They'd go up there and train. I know Lennox Lewis would go up there and train for the altitude, be up 7,500 feet in altitude. And people go, well, why do you go up there when it's like less oxygen? Well, your body adapts to the situation.
Right.
And you build red blood cells in your body for recovery. And that stuff helped out like no other, because when I fought Forrest, I was only training 3 days a week.
Damn.
I had a ruptured disc in my back, and I had a partial tear in my ACL. But I did it anyways. I really didn't have much of a choice. And I know I'd smash him pretty quick, but Forrest is a tough guy. Former world champion, a really, really tough guy, hard-nosed guy, and I almost smashed him through the octagon floor, but... One of those things. I got my hand raised. It was good.
Yeah, it was a split decision or a close decision?
Split decision. I believe it was a split decision.
I remember
all 3 of our fights were split decisions, and in the last 2, I was like, all right, Dana. I was like, all right, here you go, Forrest. This was for you.
You got robbed on the third one.
Yeah,
that was
the third
bullshit.
one. Dana actually ran after Forrest to come back and go, it's not over yet. And you're talking about just, it was BS.
It was complete horseshit. And that was Tito's, it was understood as sort of his retirement fight from the UFC. So it was ridiculous he didn't get the nod. But I want to back up.
Yep.
What's cool to me about Tito is that Tito was in it way before it was cool. They say
1997.
They say in business you should have a little bit of lag time before you get into an industry. You got to make sure that whatever that industry is, that there are people succeeding in it, making a lot of money, before you risk your time and your capital getting in. Well, Tito did the opposite, and it worked out. Tito was the first guy through the wall, and in 1997, you took your first professional fight.
Yes, May 30th, 1997, UFC 13, and I'm the only UFC fighter in UFC history or mixed martial art history that fought for free.
Wow.
I wanted because I was a kid at the time. I mean, I was a young kid at the time. I was 20. Just turned 21. I was wrestling at Golden West Junior College. I was on scholarship, so I couldn't accept any prize money. And I talked to the coach about it. He's like, well, Tito, you're using wrestling to compete against another man. You can't do that because you're in scholarship. I go, well, can I do it for free? He's like, you want to do that for free? I was like, yeah, I want to see how good I can actually be at the sport.
Wow.
And let me tell you about a fire lit under your ass. I was all in. After that, I fought twice in one night for free. Stopped my first guy in 22 seconds, and then I fought Guy Metzger, who was like 4th in the world, I think, at the time. I was smashing him, and then the John McCarthy split us up because of bleeding. Guy Metzger had a big cut on the side of his head from me kneeing him in the head.
Damn.
Then they started back on our feet. They didn't put us back in the position. Started us back on our feet. He threw a right hand. I went for a shot. Got caught in a guillotine choke, which I didn't know what a choke was at the time. I didn't know jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm born and raised in Huntington Beach, growing up the punk rock era. You know, we always get fist fights all the time. But I got into wrestling, and wrestling was my forte. But stand up and wrestling is what really got me to the point of becoming a world champion. I ended up going back to school, finished my AA degree. Then I got a transfer to Cal State Bakersfield on a full ride there. And me and the coach didn't see eye to eye, and I was like, you know what, I'm out of here. I left, dropped out of school, came back, moved back to Huntington Beach, and 8 months later, a year later, I became the world champion.
You know, I actually have a bunch of buddies who went to CSU Bakersfield because I know Uriah Faber up there, Team Alpha Male, and a lot of those guys came from Southern California wrestling schools. He went to Davis.
Davis, that's correct. You are correct.
But I know 2 guys who left Bakersfield too. They didn't see eye to eye with one of the coaches. One of the coaches, when they were all coked up together, tried to suck 2 of my buddies' dicks.
Whoa.
That's a real fucking story.
Or Danny Mullen?
That's a real story. And they both had to transfer down to Fullerton to wrestle there.
What year was this?
We'll get to incriminate this guy. This must have been like around 2004 or 5.
Okay, I was way gone. I was there in 97. So
how old were you?
That's weird.
When you first did the first fight in the UFC?
I was 21. I was 21. I competed my first time.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Tito, what made you have the courage to do something like that? Because I remember when I first heard about the UFC, I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either.
I'd never been in a fist fight, though.
Yeah, I met a few of them.
It sounds like it. I know you. That's one of the cool things about you is your rags to riches story, where you came from. That's why you're a guy who believes in this country and the opportunities here because you're the guy who lived it.
Yes, sir.
But when I first heard about the UFC, I thought it's staged, right?
No.
They're wearing full body pads, right?
No.
You can only hit 50%, right?
No. Jesus.
Tito Ortiz, when there's literally zero money involved in this, goes in and does it before it's tested, before it's safe, before it's regulated.
They were no, it wasn't regulated, but they were slowly testing how depths of the water, how deep it truly can get. You know, I got into it. That was when they had weight classes. They had lightweight, they had middleweight, and they had heavyweight. That was it.
Jesus.
And
you fought heavyweight?
no, I fought light heavyweight, or excuse me, middleweight. Middleweight, it was up to 199. I wrestled 190s in college, but when I fought, you're allowed to headbutt. I didn't have to wear gloves.
Oh, come on.
So it was a little more brutal, but I mean, I wore gloves because I didn't want to hurt my hands. And that was when we had the Harbingers. I never really saw those like small black gloves that UFC have now. That was actually my idea that I came up with, and Dana White stole it from me.
The black gloves?
No, the small Wano gloves that make UFC gloves right now.
Wow.
That company. That style of glove was your idea.
I got robbed out of it. But once again, that's what you get for people tell you they're going to do something for you, and you're like, yeah, but make sure it's on black and white in
Always.
signing, always. Anybody out there wants to be an entrepreneur, do not go by someone's word. I don't give a shit. He says you're your best friend or your brother, uncle, cousin, nephew, even father. It's business is shady always. Someone always tries to get over on you one way or another, and it happens.
Let's talk about those early days of your career where you were a star, when you were fighting Forrest Griffin, when you had the trilogy with Ken Shamrock. That was awesome.
That was probably the biggest trilogy in UFC history, I believe, because it was real. It was true. There was no fabrication behind it. Me and Ken Shamrock hated each other. Him coming from WWE, fighting in Pride, and then coming over to UFC when I was the champion at the time. I was thankful he took the fight because he actually pushed me to a different level where I understood the training mentality of just going as hard as I possibly could. That way I knew I was mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for my world championship fight. And I did, and the first one was over after 13 minutes, and I threw everything but the kitchen sink at him. Well, maybe I threw the kitchen sink at him also. It was great because it raised my bar of competing against another man, because I come to realize if I would let myself down, not even let myself down, but if I would kind of relax on any situation, he'd have a chance to rip my leg off or rip my arm off, and I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to get embarrassed in front of millions of my fans. So I trained as hard as I possibly could, and when I smashed him, it was 3 in a row.
Austin, can we pull up the press conference, the first press conference, Ken Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz? It's one of the great.
This is one of the greatest.
The great moments in UFC hype. And so it sounds like, Tito, you fed off that anger and hatred, because I know people work well off different motivators. For me personally, I can't really work from a point of view of anger or trying to get revenge. It doesn't work for me. I need to be very
Calm,
serene,
yeah,
clear-headed. But you're saying for you, this made you better, hating this guy this much.
I loved it. It was easy because he was like a juice guy that I just would push the buttons, meaning juice and steroids. I would push his buttons, and it was so easy to just turn them on or make them pissed.
Here we go.
The MGM Grand right here.
This is Ken.
Gate shuts. And the bell rings. Tito Ortiz is going to find out what Ken Shamrock is all about. I guarantee you that.
What's going through my mind is like, what do I do?
So if I was you,
face, or do I
I
laugh?
hope to God you come ready. Because if you don't, I'm going to beat you into the living death. You think this is all fun and games, but when the gate shuts and the bell rings, you're going to find out it's not fun and games. This ain't the WWF, boy. Oh, yeah, stand up. See if I don't beat the hell out of you.
You think he'd be better on the mic, though, with that WWE experience?
You know,
Well, he was learning. He was learning.
Hey, and props to him for trying.
Yeah.
Because both of you guys sold this fight in this trilogy, and I loved it when I was a kid.
Right.
All 3 installments. The second one, when you finished him instantly with elbows.
Yeah,
the third
133.
one, where you grounded, pounded him out with your fists.
217.
Wow.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So what?
But I was thankful. Don't get me wrong. I was thankful because Ken Shamrock at that time, he was the world's most dangerous man, just coming off of WWE. He was a huge star in Japan, huge star. So when you get notoriety like that, when someone like that want to step up, people don't really care about their past. They just want to see each other kick each other's ass. And we were able to sell the story perfect. And once again, there was nothing fake about it. There was, I mean, UFC didn't have to pump up him to hate me. They didn't have to pump up me to hate him. It was just perfect. What we had together was just perfect. It worked really, really well. And let me tell you, man, it fucking made me, motivated me like no other. I was like, I am not getting embarrassed by this guy because, I mean, you look at him, he looked dangerous. I mean,
scary motherfucker.
He's a big fucking cat, and he's good on the ground. I mean, his stand-up's okay, keep him alive, but at that time I was learning. I mean, people can understand. I didn't all of a sudden train for 15 years and become an MMA fighter.
Right.
UFC 13, May 30th, 1997 was the first time I've ever fought. I never fought prior to that. All I did was wrestle. That was all I did. And, you know, on the streets once in a while, I mean, getting my ass kicked by my brothers every day. I mean, I got 3 older brothers and getting my ass kicked all the time. That kind of toughed me up a little bit.
Tito, my favorite memory.
Yes, sir.
I forget the exact number of the UFC, but I was 21, 22, hammered drunk in Vegas, and I had tickets to see this man fight Ryan Bader. And again, Tito
July
at this point,
2nd, 2011.
There we go. 2011. And at this point, Tito had become a bit of a villain in the UFC. Again,
I was on a 5-fight loss streak at that time. All my little fights I lost by decision, and I thought my career was over. And Dana said that your career is over if you lose this fight. Ryan Bader was the number 2 contender at the time. He was 17-1, and former college wrestler. Wrestled at ASU. Amazing guy.
This fucking fight, Leo, we get out there, and when Tito's walking out, everybody's booing him because you know how it is. You can be the cocky asshole.
I couldn't hear the boos. That's kind of cool.
You can be the cocky asshole when you're winning, but when you start losing, people turn on you. It's like us. I mean, Leo, you and I have been guilty of being too cocky in the past, and the fans kind of let us have it. Same thing was going on with Tito. But what I learned that night is the thing people love more than hating on a villain is cheering for an underdog.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because Tito Ortiz...
I was 8-1 underdog.
I don't know if it felt like it was in the first 10 seconds of the fucking fight. Ryan Bader shoots a takedown. Tito cinches up a guillotine, drops to his back. Bader scrambles desperately to try to escape, slowly runs out of oxygen. Has to start tapping.
Damn.
The sheer emotion I felt in that arena, everybody lost their shit and just had to show Tito pure love. I mean, we all...
Oh, you don't even understand. That wasn't even like... The support I got from the fans that night was amazing, but the demons I was dealing with myself during that camp, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. I mean, I went through some shit. It was my ex at the time, Jenna Jameson, and I was trying to fix a woman that didn't want help. We had twin boys. I got full custody of my children now. It's been 9.5 years. She hasn't been around, but that date, my life changed completely because we stayed in the same house for 8 weeks, slept in the same bed for
You and
8
Jenna?
weeks. Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. You were breaking up with your girl.
No,
You're all getting ready for a fight.
I didn't talk to her. Didn't say a word.
Still,
I would,
turmoil.
For 8 weeks, we sit in there. I would go down, get my kids ready for school. I'd go take them to school. I'd come back, sleep until 12. I would go to camp. I would train from 12 until 3. I'd come home at 3, pick my kids from school, bring them home. The nannies would come and take care of them. I'd go back to training, and I'd get done about 10 o'clock at night. I did that for 8 weeks. I never spoke to her. I slept next to the same bed door. Didn't do shit. I played Modern Warfare during the nighttime after training. I trained, slept, took care of my kids, and all that negative lifestyle that she wanted and lived in, I got away from it. And I come to realize that a toxic person will take your life from you without even realizing it. And that's what she was doing. I went on a five loss streak prior to that. I lost 5 fights in a row. And I remember Dana White telling me, if you lose, you're done, dude. And I still had 3 more fights ahead of me. And they were big money fights. I remember I was with Michael Bisping during that, right before the fight. I went and visited him. He was one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. And all the guys are from England. They're like, Tito, man, do the Gravedigger for us. Do the Gravedigger for us. I was like, you guys got to wait until Saturday night. They look at me like I was an alien. Like, no, really, can you just do it because you're not fucking winning? I go, watch. You know how many of my friends won so much money on that fight? I had one of my buddies, I think he ended up winning like fucking $300,000 on that fight.
Bisping didn't think you were going to win?
No,
Bisping didn't think you were going to win?
No, Bisping didn't think I was going to win. A lot of people didn't.
Dig the grave now, Tito. You're not going to win versus Ryan Bader.
That's what he
He's too
sounded
young.
like.
He's too young.
No, Bisping's a good dude. He's
I
a really
like
good
Bisping
dude.
also.
Yeah,
Now,
he's a good dude.
most of us are never going to experience a moment like that, like winning that fight. What does that even feel
Well,
like?
Can I describe it a little more?
Describe it more.
All the people...
So let's kind of correct the fight a little bit because you said that he went for a takedown. Didn't go for a takedown. We stood in front of each other. We circled. And I ended up hitting him with the right uppercut hook. We call it a hooker cut. And he kind of dazed, almost knocked him out. And then he shot a double. I was working with Producer Verdun. Everybody knows who Producer Verdun, former UFC heavyweight champion.
BJJ world champ.
Yeah, BJJ world champ. So we worked on a guillotine, arm and guillotine, which meaning the arm was in with the choke.
I've never been able to do one of those.
And instead of pulling, you squeeze your body and crunch. And that's what I did. And all of a sudden I heard Bader's lungs go, and he stopped breathing. I wasn't gonna let go. McCarthy put his thumb underneath my chin. I kind of gave one. All right, Tito, you're done. And I wouldn't say it hurt because my adrenaline was through the roof.
Dude,
but to kind of go to your answer of what it feels like, for an average person, imagine a dream if you had something and you wanted it so bad. And this is a dream, not in real life. This is a dream, and you woke up and you go, "Fuck, I want to go back to sleep to that dream again."
Yeah.
They're generally sexual dreams in Leo's case.
Yeah, all sexual for me.
It's not really achievement based.
With the feeling of jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
With the feeling of winning $1 million.
Damn.
With the feeling of your family and your kids going, Dad did it.
Right.
And at that time, my son's at ASU, or not ASU, he's living in Arizona, and Bader's from Arizona. And my son could walk into high school with his chin a little higher that day. And
That's right.
It was a great feeling. But then I realized that when you cut toxic people out of your life, the sky's the limit. There's so much stuff that you can do.
That's right.
People that drag you down and try to pull them down with you, those are the ones you need to let go. And